What's going on, Packers fans? Aaron Negler here, joined by Andy Herman of the Pack-A-Day podcast, and now a regular radio host. Andy, how are you? Happy Victory Monday.
Happy Victory Monday to you as well. I'm doing great. I'm hoping you have all the answers to this one because I don't know officially like how to break down this entire game. Like it's like the most Packers-y Packers game of all time. Kind of what we expected, a little bit weird, a little bit wonky. They got the win. Wasn't exactly what we were expecting, but here we are. They're 6-2, and I will gladly take it.
And you never apologize for winning. It is fun today because I do want to give the Ravens a bouquet of flowers for providing the instant rebuttal to, but it was the Jaguars. The Ravens lost to the Browns, ladies and gentlemen. This is the NFL. Every week is important. Every week is a dogfight. You saw that play out yesterday. Let's start with probably the main headline is Jordan Love's injury. The way he stayed in there and obviously tried to battle through it, it sure looked like, and I don't really think Matt touched on it too much in his post game yesterday. Maybe we'll hear a little bit more this afternoon when he talks to the media, but sure felt like, the playbook was still, quote, open, but you saw him get into the pistol. You saw them kind of operate strictly from the pocket, so to speak. Felt like, he was gutting it out, but it didn't feel like the whole kind of menu was on offer for Jordan after that first drive.
No, not at all. You could tell when he got under center a couple times after that initial injury, it just didn't seem right. A couple of the handoffs were really wonky. There's the play to Tucker Kraft too, where he actually rolls out and has to buy time and hits Kraft. And then he like comes up and it looks like he can't, do anything at that point. So I give him a ton of credit for trying to fight through it. You could tell he wasn't quite himself. And even then came up with some big throws. Again, the Tucker Kraft play was huge. The Romeo Doubs play down the sidelines. Like,
that's an insane throw.
You go back and watch this and like, I understand obviously the frustration with the interception and the offense as a whole struggled in the red zone and on third downs, including a drop by Jaden Reed early in the game. And like, it definitely didn't feel great early on from an offensive standpoint, but the way that they were able to move the ball, and even when Jordan was in there playing very clearly hurt and not at 100%, like inside in between the 20s, they moved it incredibly well, all things considered. And then again, you could tell Jordan, it seemed like almost got a little bit worse as time got on it. I don't know if it like started to tighten up on him or whatever, but that was not there. The red zone productivity was not there. And there's definitely things to clean up, but I didn't think this was quite as bad of a Jordan game as maybe some people are making it out to be.
Well, it's fascinating to see people kind of go after him for whatever throws, etc. I think clearly on the interception, and I said this live during the watch party, he's not himself. Like, he's playing hurt. He can't step into that throw, A, because of the rush, then also B, because he's dealing with a hurt groin. Like, he doesn't get anywhere near the amount of kind of zip on it that you'd prefer throwing that wide sideline shot. Great play by the rookie corner there to undercut it. And we still don't know, thanks to Fox and their Q team coverage, if that foot was on the line or not. But, that fair play to them. They made a play, but it just felt kind of obvious, obviously, the longer it went on. And I do think that throw to Kraft seemed to be the turning point. I think he kind of aggravated it further on that play. But hey, look, credit to Love for gutting it out, especially on a week where you saw the Colts starting quarterback take a breather because he was tired. I mean, here's Jordan Love, banged up knee, torn groin. Well, not a torn groin, but a messed up groin. And he's trying to stay out there as long as possible. Meanwhile, in Indy, you got a guy going, I need a blow. I was running around a little bit there. I mean, that just obviously it speaks to Jordan Love, but it speaks to the type of player he is. He wants to be in there. He wants to play. And that's what I kind of kept telling people when, sit him down, sit him down. It's like, obviously it's a conversation. You heard Matt mention after the game, they felt they reached a point where he couldn't protect himself because they're getting feedback from the player. How do you feel? Do you think you can go? He obviously wants to go. Most players do, but I think they made the right call, obviously, making the switch when they did. And then we talk about the offense with Malik Willis. And Andy, I'm sure you've gotten this because I know I've gotten it a ton. I said it after the game in my gut reactions chat. I don't know if you agree with this, but Lord Almighty, Matt LaFleur, take your game plans and your play calling when Malik Willis is in there. Use that with Jordan Love. You're only going to help your quarterback.
I agree with pieces, and I may disagree with a slightly bit as well. So I agree with the overall sentiment 1,000,000%. Like, I do think, especially Just with Jordan in general, like give him some easy looks. We talked about it last week. Like make this a Josh Jacobs game. Make this so that it doesn't have to be an A+ Jordan game, that he can go get the ball out of his hands and distribute the ball. I think there's absolutely a piece of that. And it does feel like they feel like they have this unbelievable quarterback who can hit throws all over the field. And I don't even just think that's a Jordan thing. I think sometimes the offense gets a little bit ahead of itself and starts going big game hunting and wanting those big shot plays, and like just take what's there. A little bit more West Coast can be really, really positive. And again, run the football effectively. What I will say is, I think they tried to develop the run early in this game. They did some of the outside stuff. It wasn't working. They tried some of the inside stuff. It wasn't working. They tried, and then like he's hurt on the very first drive where he misses Jacobs. Yes. It's the first or second drive. And then like you could tell he wasn't comfortable under center anymore, which limited the ability to kind of go to some of that stuff that I'm sure that they wanted to run.
Yeah, but it's not just this game thing. That's my issue, right?
Yep.
I think there's plenty of evidence at this point when you are able to utilize him under center, when you are able to kind of have your whole offense on offer, it just feels like things flow so much better when Malik is in there. And I get it, man. I get things are very different. It's specialized almost for the running game.
Yep.
But they've shown they can be effective playing that style of ball. And I'll also say it feels like it's it's so much less disjointed, where the holding calls, the false starts and things of that nature. You're not doing as much. And it feels like it streamlines the offense in a way that benefits not just the quarterback, but everybody on the field. And I understand that's a very simplistic view, but I do think there's something to it. You know what I mean?
If there's a flaw with Matt that I truly believe from an offensive play caller standpoint, I think he's one of the best, if not the best. I think he's an unbelievable play designer, play caller, but we're talking upper echelon here, no matter what. But I think there's a flaw. I think he can get caught up too much in what the defense does poorly in trying to attack the opposing defense rather than what his team does well. Yes. And I do think there is something to the effect of like, hey, yeah, I know that you might not be getting the most advantageous looks if you're running some of the quote unquote Malik Willis stuff all the time. Right. I don't care. Run it anyway. Like go with it and make them stop it and maybe continue to go with it, because that's some of the stuff that can work extremely well for you. And I get that you have to look at maybe some of those opportunities to hit the shots down the field and keep them honest. And hopefully you're going to stay balanced throughout the course of the game. But if there's anything that I think sometimes he gets just ahead of his skis a little bit, it's him wanting to attack some of the weaknesses rather than focusing on his team's strengths.
I think you absolutely nailed it there. Especially, I mean, you don't have to look much further than coming into this game, the Jaguars had real problems with teams running on the perimeter. Like they had been gouged and gashed and just pretty much torn up by teams getting outside the numbers. And you saw Matt try to attack that. But it became really clear pretty early on that that was not going to be effective. Yet there was a continuation of, okay, well, we practiced this all week. This is in the game plan. It's going to pop eventually, which obviously, as a play caller, that is a mindset, and I understand it. But, man, I very much agree with that idea where, okay, we've watched this on tape, and these are the areas, and we have to do this. And at some point, like, okay, but think about your players and what you've done and what you guys have done very, very well repeatedly now. There's something there. I don't think it's a black and white conversation. I don't think it's an answer. But I do think it's something that, especially with the bye week coming up, I would be surprised if they don't take some kind of deep drill down, because look, they're always talking about it, right? Each and every year during the bye week, they're talking about self-scouting, what has worked, what hasn't. Well, you've got 2.5 games essentially of evidence telling you that operating this way on offense might just pay some dividends going forward.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And I think that, the big thing, almost spilt my soda. I think the big thing too is just figuring out, again, what it is like that are your core concepts. It feels like they have a core concept for a game plan every single week. But I think if you live that way, I think you can have a bad game plan from week to week, and then you've got to make the adjustments and things like that. Whereas if you have your stable, and they of course have their things that they like to run over and over. I'm not saying that they don't, but I think if you go in again, focusing on your strengths and what you do extremely well and running that, and even if the other team, like force them to stop you first and then make the adjustments based off of that, then go to your sort of plan B stuff. But I think if they can focus a little bit more on that, have their bread and butter, go to Jacobs more, again, get some of the play action rolling a little bit more, I think that does give them more opportunities to be successful. But again, to your point, it's an oversimplified version of something that's obviously very complex. And I just think they haven't quite found that right formula yet. And it didn't take, it took them until week 9, 10, 11 last year until they found that formula. So let's give them a little bit more time. And I do think they find it eventually. And by the way, like, I think this is the amazing part of all of this is like, on a day where you didn't have
the right, 6-2.
They're 6-2. And on a day where you didn't have the right formula, you had your backup quarterback in, and like everything went, like you put up 30 points. And I get part of that was turnovers and stuff like that, but like 400 yards and 30 points on a day where things didn't go right. You didn't have your fastball, a backup quarterback, everything, and you still did that. So it's like, this reminds
me of a video I made a couple years ago when Rodgers was still in town, and I had gone to town on Watch Party about how frustrating the offense was. And they had scored like 25 points, whatever, 300 plus yards, etc. And then I watched like the Broncos and Teddy Bridgewater on the next Monday night, and it was like medieval football. And I just had to, I literally made an apology video. Matt LaFleur, Aaron Rodgers, I am so sorry. I know I am spoiled. And I do feel like that this week. Like, to your point, they moved the ball. They scored a ton of points. But I do get frustrated in the moment at times. And you talk about Josh Jacobs. I mean, this is why you signed this guy. This is the exact type of game where, okay, maybe you're not really working downfield the way you want, and you do have your backup come in. He showed that game he can take over a football game. And that's not to take anything away from even, any of the backups, whether it's Brooks, who I thought ran surprisingly well, or Wilson. But it's pretty clear that they've got a decent stable. But, man, Josh Jacobs can take over, and he did yesterday.
The thing I loved about it is you could just tell he had the mentality in the second half of, oh, okay, Jordan's out. Our defense is maybe not, getting some of the stops that we're used to them getting the stops on. And like, I'm going to just take over this game. And the 38-yard touchdown run or whatever it was, just an unbelievable individual effort on that play. He had a couple of plays that looked like, maybe -2, -1 yard runs, and they turned them into 8, 9, 10-yard runs. And he just there was a point in the game where you just felt, just give him the ball because they're not stopping him. Like, he is going to get positive yards. He's going to get a good gain. And just that mentality and the ability to just say, feed me the ball. I got you. I'm going to take it from here. I know we don't got Jordan. We're not losing this game. We're not losing to the Jaguars. Hand me the ball and I'm going to take care of it from here. Like, that's what I loved about Jacobs in this game. And he ran incredibly tough. I didn't think the run blocking was all that great overall in this game. And he found a way to make it work. And it was really special to watch.
And real quickly, before we move on to the defensive side of the ball, I thought it was great to watch all the pass catchers get involved in different ways. Obviously, you had a few drops. Reed had that third down drop early. Dobbs had a drop late that I thought would really come back to haunt them. But overall, I thought, this was a prototypical, you never know with the Packers. Like, the fact that Jaden Reed had been, caught a few balls, somewhat productive, pretty quiet day. And then there he is on a leak at the end of the game to essentially seal it. I mean, you don't know who's going to hurt you any given moment, to the point where Tucker Kraft is out there scoring a touchdown where they clearly didn't account for that. Obviously it's a set it up like you're blocking, leak out into the flat, and there he is wide open. But I just thought, and Christian Watson got involved. We saw just a plethora of dudes who, this is the whole point of having this collection of talent on the offensive side. You just don't know where that strike is going to come from.
And that's the beauty of it. And I already start hearing this week, well, did Jaden Reed get enough? He only had 3 targets in this game. Dontayvion Wicks, did he get enough targets? There's only 2 targets. Christian Watson, only 4 for 39. Are they involving Christian Watson enough? It's like, that's what it's going to be every single week. There might be one guy that goes off and has that game. Today, it happened to be Josh Jacobs. And guess what? If the receivers were eaten, everyone's going to be asking, did Josh Jacobs get enough carries in this game?
Enough carries.
And so it's like, it is a beautiful problem to have. It's going to and we just have to sort of refix our mind to say, we don't need to be the ones, and I guess everyone I know has their players on their fantasy teams and stuff like that, but we don't need to be the ones that are worried about who's getting the carries, as long as it's not a issue in the locker room and guys are remaining happy and fed and things like that. Like, this is what it's going to be every single week. And you still had Tucker Kraft with a 67-yard play, Jaden Reed with a 51-yard play, Romeo Dobbs with 72 yards receiving and a couple really big receptions. I thought Christian Watson came up clutch on all four of his catches were either in big moments or in difficult spots or contested, and he came up with every single one of them. And Josh Jacobs was awesome all throughout the game. So yeah, it might not be anyone going 8 for 180 and 3 touchdowns, but everyone is getting involved to some capacity, and that's when this offense is at its best.
And then we switch over to the defensive side of the ball, where, Andy, it is somewhat disconcerting. And I know it's not this simple, right? But it is somewhat disconcerting how clearly things switched on defense when Evan Williams went out with that hamstring injury. Like, there's no doubt that they are a better defense with him on the field. I'm not, breaking any news there, but man, I didn't think it would be as kind of disjointed as it clearly became after he left the game.
You set this up perfectly. Speaking of breaking news, we have from Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero. Packers quarterbacks Jordan Love MRI came back with some good news. It's a strained groin, nothing major, and MRI confirmed optimism about Jordan Love's status. He'll be day to day. And then, sorry, my phone died on me. He'll be day to day and has a shot to play on Sunday. So, it sounds like he will have an opportunity to play Sunday. Strained groin, nothing major, and we're mostly in the clear there. So, great news on the Jordan Love.
It's great. I love that it's nothing long term. I don't mind if Malik Willis starts this game. I don't. I love the idea of buttoning it up, running the ball, and keeping Detroit on the sideline because God knows they can turn your lights out quick with that offense. So I do obviously want Love out there, but I'm not crying any tears if Malik gets the start.
He's been unreal. Which is a crazy. Can you imagine if I told you, if I played this video clip for you back in August? I'm like, no, I don't mind if Jordan doesn't play because you got Malik Willis.
You're insane. That's what I would say.
What are you saying exactly? Yeah. But no, I totally get what you're saying. But back to Evan Williams, it was very telling. And I think, you're missing who has been a very good player in Evan Williams on that defense, which I think definitely mattered a lot. And then I just think the domino effect of everything else. I think having to put Javon Bullard back at safety, which I think in general is fine, but it was very clear either that transition of going back there was a little bit more difficult, or he just hasn't been practicing it as much the last few weeks and was expecting to play corner, because when he got back at safety, that was very clearly the worst Javon Bullard game that we have seen so far this year. So I don't know if that just affected him or he wasn't prepared for it or whatever, but that was not pretty. And then of course you got to take Keyshawn, who had been playing very well on the outside, and put him back in the slot. And I think you got some matchups there, specifically with Evan Ingram on that last touchdown, where that's a tough matchup for Nixon, where you'd like to have maybe a safety there, which again, you're not, because Nixon's there. And then you have more Eric Stokes on the outside, which in general has not gone great this season. And I didn't think, at first glance, I haven't watched the full all 22 on defense yet, but at first glance did not look great from Eric Stokes. So I think losing Evan Williams and then the trickle down effect of really having to kind of move 2 different players and bring in a guy off the bench to play that outside corner spot just led to some disappointing results. And it is very, very obvious. Now, you had the breaking news that it sounds like it's good news for Evan Williams overall. So hopefully that's the case, because they definitely need him out there, which is another crazy thing to say. If, like I told you back at the very beginning, like this rookie fourth round safety is going to be one of the linchpins of this defense. But so far he kind of is.
He absolutely is. And it was kind of, shocking, striking, whatever you choose a word. But I will say, on the positive tip, obviously McKinney gets another interception, and you saw some really positive stuff from Edrin Cooper.
Yeah.
And then I love Edrin Cooper, obviously, with the forced fumble, but man, Devontae Wyatt's effort to recover that fumble, to hip check the dude and fall on the ball. Absolute phenomenal play. And I thought Wyatt looked good coming back, because you never really know when a guy has a layoff, is injured, etc. That first time back, I'm not going to say he picked up right where he left off, but it seemed like he was active and at least, made things a little bit more difficult for that Jaguars offensive line at times. I want to ask you about special teams, because I'm contractually obligated apparently, but this is a game where, outside of the very first punt, where it is a phenomenal punt, I do wish Reed makes more of an effort to go try and get it, but felt like Fight Club. We don't want to talk about Fight Club, because it felt like everyone did their job. I mean, Whelan had one kind of bad hit, but outside of that, I thought he, especially when called upon at the end, they needed to flip the field. He did that. Obviously, you got another walk-off 2 weeks in a row with a walk-off kick to win it. All of a sudden, looking kind of competent on special teams there, Andy.
Competent and forgettable. All we've asked for, Aaron, just competent and forgettable so that we don't have to break it down in any major detail, that we don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, what happened? No catastrophic mistakes. Like, just all I've ever wanted in life, Aaron. Just all I've ever wanted. It's just forgettable special teams. So we got it. I was very pleased about that. Just to go back really quick, though, I have a couple questions on the defensive side. Well, first of all, I wanted to say really quick, Devontae Wyatt, that was one of my favorite plays. Just like you see guys get like tunnel vision on the ball and they just start diving for it. The fact that he goes full hip check on an offensive lineman and just wanted that ball so bad and like just chucks him and goes down and gets it like that. Just one of my favorite plays of the game.
So good.
Ezra Cooper, and I know this is going to be a much talked about conversation as well. 59% of the snaps in this game, 34 out of 57 that he played. And I understand it sounds like maybe there's some practice habits he needs to clean up, or maybe there's some misalignment issue. This guy is making unbelievable plays every single time he's on the field. And like, I don't know. And I maybe like this is, but if like Isaiah McDuffie and Quay Walker and Eric Wilson are doing everything right in practice and doing everything they're supposed to and aligning right, and you get a worse version of the guy that's out there and not doing anything, like I still take the guy that's lining up wrong or maybe not practicing right, but is making a million plays out on the field. Like it just feels like you have to be on the field, like cover everything else that you need to, but like he is a playmaker and I love watching him play. And I feel like I just need more of him.
Yeah, it's a little wild, but you know how football coaches are. You know, that's the thing. It's they value that kind of sureness, you know, especially when it comes to McDuffie, knowing the system as well as he does. They clearly value that. I will say the one thing that I would say to the defensive coaching staff, if I had the opportunity to, is look how the offense grew last year because all these young guys had to play. Yeah. You know, you've got the opportunity to put this young man on the field if you so choose. Do it now. Like he got his first start of his career, which is great. But to your point, I mean, he didn't even crack 60% of the snaps, like 50% of the snaps, somewhere around there. Like I need him at 100 just so that when he is making those mistakes, you are learning from them. He has been on the field in the fire and knows, oh, that's right. I remember XYZ from earlier in the season. You saw that literally happen throughout the year. Last year on the offensive side of the ball, you've started to see some of that on the defensive side of the ball with these defensive backs. I need him on the field as much as possible so he's learning. You're going to deal with a few issues as far as alignment and things of that nature. But yeah, I'm with you, man. I want him on the field making the mistakes now so he's not making them in December and January. That's my thing.
I agree. I need more. I want more, and I'm not going to take no for an answer, even though I can't do anything about it.
Well, they're gonna need him on Sunday against a Lions team that is just absolutely red hot on offense. Andy and I will be previewing that game later in the week for Pack-A-Day members and Cheesehead TV Nation newsletter subscribers. Andy, can't wait to talk to you again. Thanks so much for the time, man.
Can't wait. Thanks so much, Aaron.